This is Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars, and we're joined here with
Kaitlin Bennett.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Trump, and is Trump going to actually declare a national emergency over the wall? Now, Alex Jones put out this really good video report, which you can find on, it's called Exclusive, Trump Prepares America for Declaration of National Emergency. I highly suggest you guys watch this video after you're done watching our live stream right here, because it's very good. He breaks down why he thinks that Trump is entitled to declare a state of national emergency and why he needs to do so. But what do you think, Kaitlin? Do you think Trump is just threatening that he's going to declare a national emergency, or do you think he's serious and that we're actually going to see this happen?
I think he's serious. One, it's because that's what his supporters want. He knows, I think it's a very real possibility that if he doesn't get this wall built, he's going to lose a lot of supporters, and that's going to affect his 2021 run. But also he knows that it needs to be done. He wouldn't have campaigned on it if he didn't think it needed to be done. So we see the caravan now. We see what's going on over in Europe with their massive immigration stuff going on over there. Is just a disaster. So I think he sees the problems. He wants to make sure that if something were to ever happen in this country, that wall would be there to make sure that we are still able to take care of ourselves first.
Yeah, and some people have criticized and said Trump is just, trying to force through his policy. He's trying to circumvent the House. He just wants this border funding to go through, and he knows the Democrats aren't doing it. So he's just going to declare this national emergency, even though there really isn't one. Well, that's actually not true. There is a national emergency happening right now. There are legitimate safety issues going on right now at our border. And many of you guys might not have heard about this, but actually the House released a House Homeland Security whole investigation before the House, okay? This happened just today. The House report warned that there are suspected terrorists in these migrant caravans that have been coming from Central America. And some of these terrorists are actually ISIS members, and some of them are groups that are involved with violent Mexican cartels and gangs. So ISIS has actually put out literature. They've documented this. This was put before the Democrats in this House report, that they are now advising these ISIS members to travel up through our southern border into the country, because they know that the Democrats and everyone will just try to easily let them on through. And we know, I've been down there in Mexico, and a lot of these people aren't from Mexico that are coming up through. They're from all other countries, and yes, even the Middle East. So he's not just making this up saying, oh, I'm just going to claim there's a national emergency so I can get my way. No, this is a national emergency. You have terrorist groups. You have violent criminal cartels coming up attacking our border.
Well, even like Alex Jones said, he made a really good point in the video that you guys should definitely check out, that either whether or not it's declared by Trump or anybody, we are in a state of national emergency because of everything Millie just talked about. And there's suspected terrorists. We know that's happening. We absolutely know that's happening. And something else that we know that's happening are sex traffickers are coming through the border. They bring in children that they rape and that they torture, and then they come into America and they do it to us too. So I don't know why that doesn't matter to Democrats. They know what's happening. They know what comes across that border, and they don't care.
And it's almost as though Trump has been preparing us for this. We know that back in September, Trump did a presidential proclamation, which he said that it was going to be National Emergency Month, so that you were to be prepared. So it was National Preparedness Emergency Month back in September to prepare people for, in the event that there's an emergency or some kind of an issue, power outage, national disaster, whatever. But we could see all-out craziness, destabilization, as we see more of these migrants coming up and attacking our southern border. I know you were talking a lot about what's been going on in Europe, and the destabilization. I mean, look at Paris. Paris is on fire. Paris is burning. Paris is in riots.
They're killing each other over these riots.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the plan to flood in all of these migrants from other countries that can be easily controlled or have, we know ISIS, Al-Qaeda, we know that wasn't just an organic thing that happened. We know that there was CIA, there was deep state involvement, there was all this involvement here. So these groups that are now coming into our country through our southern border, such as ISIS, these are huge national security risks to our country. And Trump knows this. He doesn't want these people coming into our country. And that's why we need to do whatever we can to get the funding for this wall. And so what's the big deal, Kaitlin? What's the big deal? $5 billion.
Well, it's $156 billion to maintain illegal immigrants every year, but it would be $5.6 billion to build the wall. So I don't know if the Democrats can't do math. I don't know if they don't think one number...
That is a very, very high probability there.
So they might not be able to do math.
They're doing Common Core math.
Yeah, they're doing Common Core math. They don't see the difference in the budget. But more importantly, I think they just want to maintain their base of outraged Trump haters. They want to make sure they maintain their vote as well, because if Nancy Pelosi ever wants to maybe run for president or any other Democrat, they're not going to vote for this wall. That's going to deplete their chance of ever, getting back in office or remaining in office. So I think a lot of it has to do with politics. I think Trump is a little bit more smarter than these Democrats in here telling us we don't need the wall and just let all these immigrants in, but they don't want to seem racist. They called Trump a racist for the wall. So if they all of a sudden fund it, then now they're the racists too. And they're kind of they're self-inflicting it.
Yeah, so, they're just essentially caring more about political correctness and not appearing to be mean and trying to close up our borders and appearing to be racist, right? Because they've turned it into a race issue when it has nothing to do with race, has everything to do with our security. They are so worried about political correctness that they are sweeping to the wayside the actual safety and security of American lives in our own country.
And maybe they know what's going on. Maybe they see the same things as Donald Trump, but they have pushed so hard for him not to get elected in 2016 that they've made their base believe that a wall is racist, that people coming across the border aren't murderers, aren't drug users or sellers, or they aren't sex traffickers. So now they have to keep up with that narrative. They didn't think Trump was going to win.
Well, look, I'd say your average Democrat will believe that. But the Democrat politicians, they know. Yeah. These are criminals. They're deep state puppets. They know exactly what's going on here. They had this House report put before them, this investigative report that literally spelled out that there are terrorist groups, there are special interest aliens was one of the terms they used to call these cartel violent groups that are coming up with these migrant caravans. There were serious concerns put before them by the Homeland Security Committee, okay, just before the Democrats were to take the House. So this just happened. Democrats get this report. You know what Democrats do? They say, we don't care. We don't care. We're not giving Trump his wall. We're just going to dig our feet in the ground, and we don't care if the government doesn't get turned back on because we want our way, and it's about principle. That's what they try to say. It's not about money, because we know darn well the Democrats don't mind spending money and increasing the national debt. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was just talking the other day to Jake Tapper about increasing the national debt by $40 trillion in the next 10 years. So all of her little plans and ideas she has, free health care for everyone, including illegal aliens, free college tuition, all these free things she wants to give out. Oh, it's so free. Right? Is it really free? No.
What do you expect from a socialist?
She thinks it's free. It's like, where's it going to come from, Alexandria? Where's this money? It's not free. You're taking that money from Americans. We're paying for it. It's not free. So they don't mind having American dollars go towards the policies and things that they want, but they can't allow 5 billion. We're talking about 5 billion, not trillion. And she's talking about 40 trillion.
Yeah.
5 billion is a drop in the bucket for any of these Democrat policies. I mean, the amount of foreign aid that we give to these countries was way more than that, double that.
In the Middle East, the government actually wants to build a barrier along some oil refineries to protect their oil, but they don't care enough. The Democrats don't care enough about people. They care more about oil. So,
of course.
Well, you know, I guess they don't care about lives in the
They're
first place.
globalist puppets, okay? So here's the deal. Trump needs to just declare a state of emergency. He needs to get the border wall funding, send more troops down there in the meantime. Yes, he's already sent a significant amount of troops, but obviously there needs to be more because it hasn't been enough of a deterrent for these migrant caravans, because we just had one on New Year's of 150 where our border security had to deploy tear gas. So obviously that it hasn't been a deterrent enough. So we need the wall. We need more troops down there temporarily. And if he has to declare a state of emergency, that is his job to do so.
And what Alex Jones points out in the video is that not only is it his right, it's a legal right of his, it's his duty to protect us in that way. In case, like you said earlier, in case anything were to happen in this country to where we would need to make sure that we just didn't get absolutely swarmed by other people trying to hurt us. We need that wall there for protection, a physical barrier, just like Trump wants to do. And I don't know, maybe we need some new Democrats too.
Yeah, you know, and us at Infowars, we have actually been predicting for months now that Trump was going to declare a state of emergency, that it was very likely that we could see some kind of state of emergency or martial law situation happen here in America this year. And one of the sources we had was somebody we know that is close with the Trudeaus, and how Canada is posturing and positioning itself to declare its own state of emergency, and they pushed legislation through to do that in the event the U.S. goes into its own state of emergency. And what's interesting is in this House report where it talks about the U.S. and it talks about the vulnerabilities that we are facing with these terrorist groups and criminal alien groups coming up through our southern border. It also talks about Canada's border and how Canada's border is susceptible when the U.S.'s border is susceptible. Because it means these criminal aliens will come up into their border as well. And you don't want widespread ISIS groups in the country enacting terror. You know, it's not something we want. We had a lot of that. It seems like that kind of slowed down for a while.
We have a culture in America that has sustained our country for hundreds of years. I don't know why the Democrats, and the Democrats can complain about this country as much as they want, but they're able to do so because this country and our values and our culture is so amazing. So while they're over there complaining about it, they want to bring in all these people who don't believe in the same thing. They just want to let them cross the border. They will destroy that. So the life that the Democrats have right now that they think is so bad could be so much worse, and they're going to do it to themselves.
Exactly. I mean, the Democrats seem to take the safety we hold for granted, and then they complain when we do have terrorist attacks or we do have issues, and then they say, let's ban all guns, like that's going to solve everything.
Yeah.
Well, what's the point of banning all guns if you're going to have an open border?
Exactly.
And you're going to have these criminal cartels coming from Mexico into the country with guns and drugs and paraphernalia.
That's such a good point.
So what's the point? So we have to take away our right to have a gun, but you're okay with having an open border where these terrorists can come in with whatever, guns, drugs, whatever, into our nation and put our lives at risk? No, that dog doesn't hunt. One of the things I wanted to bring up was, that veteran who raised almost $19 million, Brian Colfage, he did something pretty funny recently. Now, Nancy Pelosi in a press conference was asked by some reporters if the Democrats were willing to even just give $1, or if she was willing to give $1 toward like, are you going to even give a single dollar towards this Trump's border budget wall or border budget?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, oh, $1. And she kind of scoffed it and she said, oh yeah, I'll donate $1. That's fine. We can give him $1. Like, she thought it was so funny. But she said she'd give $1.
And that was before there was a GoFundMe, right? Or was that
No, it's after.
So after.
So then Brian Colfage just did a video recently where he then goes to Nancy Pelosi's office in D.C. and tries to get in front of her and ask her, Nancy, can you give us that dollar? Are you going to put up? Because, hey, every dollar counts. We're $19 million and counting. That's American citizens that decided to just throw their money at this border wall, even though we already pay our taxes.
Yeah.
And just people know that it's going to end up benefiting Americans so much that they're willing to just throw their own money at it. But I just thought it was funny because he's like, hey, can I get this dollar? You know?
Did she give the dollar?
Well, no, she didn't.
She didn't even give a dollar.
She didn't give the dollar. She didn't even let him. Her staffers just kind of blew the guy off and, gave him the whole ring-a-roar, the goose chase, and just told him, hey, she can't talk to you. But she's all hiding in her office somewhere, like, tell him to go away.
Yeah.
That's how that usually goes down, right?
And she's like stuttering and not knowing. Have you seen the video mashup of where she doesn't know what she's saying? She forgets names. She called Trump Bush, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. And then Maxine Waters' face is literally... So Nancy Pelosi calls Trump Bush when she's talking in the press conference, and Maxine Waters' face is like...
Yeah, like if you confuse Maxine Waters, if she's like calling out your crap, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
It's Maxine Waters. She doesn't know what she's talking about half the time either. So.
No, apparently Nancy Pelosi doesn't either. So, what are we in for now where we have 2019 and we literally have
it's only the beginning of the year.
Yeah, the Democrats have now just taken over the House and we're just going to see complete incompetence.
Yep.
If Trump, that's one of the things Alex touched on in this video. If Trump doesn't just hurry up and declare the state of emergency and get his border budget through, he is going to be so caught up with the Democrats subpoenaing him for every little thing and investigating him for every little thing that I think that it's going to be hard for him to try to follow through with his campaign promises because he's going to be so caught up. And that's the whole strategy that the Democrats are using. They really believe that their base, their following, is expecting them to attack Trump and go after Trump.
Well, there was a freshman congresswoman just got sworn in. I think her name is Rashid Tlaib. I don't know how to say it. Might be racist because of that. But her campaign was solely impeach Trump. Oh, yeah. He's hurt our people. He's, terrorized our communities. That's all she ran on, and she got elected. So now what does she do? The first thing these people do when they're sworn in, draft something to try to impeach him. Instead of working with him, they just want to wreak havoc on the country. What does that solve? It solves absolutely nothing. And you can tell the Democrats do not care about the citizens because instead of working with Trump, maybe changing policies, they just want him gone. But they can't respect the election results like they were telling Trump supporters to respect the election results. So...
Yeah, and one of the actually interesting things was that Rashida actually said, impeach that mother effer in her comment.
In the context of that, she was explaining to the crowd that that's what she said to her little son on election night when she won. Imagine looking at your son.
So Nancy Pelosi tries to excuse it and make excuses for it. It's just, it's going to be out of control. We're going to see a crazy year this election year. So I do think that the best strategy here is for Trump to declare a national emergency, get the border wall through, secure our border. We don't need these criminal terrorist groups coming up through our border because they see vulnerabilities there and they see that the Democrats are wanting to keep that open and available for them. And if the Democrats want to act like they don't care and shove American safety and security to the side, that's what they're going to do. That's their prerogative, but they don't have a right to endanger the nation, and he has every right as president to declare a national emergency for American safety.
Absolutely.
So we're pretty much going to wrap up this live stream. We've been going for a while now, but any final comments, Kaitlin?
Just make sure, one, that you donate to that border wall, number one.
Yeah.
And then make sure you check out Alex's video. It does a really good breakdown. He explains everything really, really well. Goes into a little bit more depth than what we did. But, yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, and go to Infowars.com for more reports. You'll see some of the latest. I know Kaitlin just did a really funny report she just uploaded that's up on there. It's called Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal is communist bullshit. So that's her newest one. And I've got a new report up on Infowars.com called Are Establishment Republicans Plotting Against Trump? So you can go to Infowars.com and check out some of our latest reports. Also, go to InfoWarsStore.com. Please support us, guys. You are the reason that Infowars is alive and running and has been able to do so much damage against the globalists and to fight the fight. So go to InfoWarsStore.com and support us. This is Millie Weaver and Kaitlin Bennett signing off for Infowars.com.